Hello. Hi, everybody. Just picking threads because I just had a seam rip. I didn't want you to see that on camera. No, I'm just kidding. I'm Bethany with CutterPillar. Happy Friday. It's Friday, and we're going to sew together, which, I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. Sadly, you just get me today. Melody and Corey both had previous things that they had to do today, but don't worry. They will be back on Wednesday. But I'm so happy that you're here, and we're going to go through some really like when this project starts to come together. So we've got a lot to kind of cover today, but we'll kind of hop through it pretty quickly. If you tuned in on Wednesday, let me know if you if you have already caught up to where we're at so far. Let me know. If not, that's fine. If it makes you feel any better, I was sewing up until just a few minutes ago, and then seam ripping, so it's fine. And then I stayed up late last night to get ahead. So we're all at different phases in this project, and that's what's great about doing these live sew-alongs is they're recorded so you can watch the replay whenever you're ready to sit down and sew, and just pause it at each step and do that step and then hit play and kind of go through it at your own pace, but you're still going to get all the great tips. So a lot of people just tune in, watch, take some notes, and then they get excited and get this like energy to just jump in as soon as the live's over. So whatever works for you. I'm just glad that you're here. It's okay, Sue, to be behind. Literally, I was up until midnight last night sewing, and then I still had to, I didn't even get all the blocks made last night. I had to finish those this morning and cut all of the border pieces just so I could show you what to do next. So I have to keep up pace, but you do not have to. Do not have to. Got to step 9. Okay, that's great. That's a great start. We're going to jump right in a minute. I did want to take a quick second to remind you all of our Fall Fest sale that we have going on right now. And I'm going to show you exactly how to find it on the website, but Eric's going to be so kind to drop a link in the chat. But if you go to our website, you see this big, beautiful orange and yellow banner with the pumpkins and the sunflowers. And we're going to click on that. And this whole page is all things Fall Fest. We've kind of revamped it to be a little more interactive for you. So we highlight different packages and bundles that we've done. And then there's like a whole video on that bundle. So if you're not sure what this bundle is, you can go watch it. Again, here we are with another bundle. This is our Papercraft Travel bundle. It includes a light board and a paper cutter and a tote. And there's a video that goes over that. Again, we've got so many bundles, so many things, up to 33% off of some of these bundles. And there's even more down here. This is a great time to like grab one of these and start planning your Christmas shopping early, whether it's for you or sewing or crafting friend. There's more down here. There's the Sewist bundle. This is a great starter bundle for anyone who is new to CutterPillar products, because you're going to get a light board with the translucent cutting mat. You're going to get the Flex sewing machine light to make sure you're very well lit in your sewing space. And you're going to get a flip and fold cutting mat, which is what I'm cutting on. It's my absolute favorite mat. I use them all the time here in my studio and on the go. I'll be taking mine tomorrow to Sewing Club. So yeah, this is a great bundle for if you don't have any CutterPillar products yet and you don't know where to start. This is a good one. All right. And then there's like the all-in, like the ultimate, like I love CutterPillar products and I need everything. This is a great one to start with. If you are ready to dive in and truly outfit your sewing space or your quilting space with all the tools, because our tools do work very much like together. So there's all sorts of things in here. Oh, we've got special ones just for applique. Like they've done a really good job. You got to give the team round of applause for kind of revamping this page. They've done a beautiful job, but I wanted to give you guys a second to see it. Eric dropped a link to it in the chat so you guys can go shop and enjoy those deals while they're happening. I believe, and Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, that if they, and Melody was talking about it Wednesday, but I've somewhat a little bit slept since then. So you can tell me if I'm wrong, but the Fat Quarter Bundle Bag, that's a mouthful. The Fat Quarter Bundle Bag is part of this Fall Fest, correct? Okay. He's giving me the nod. Okay. So if you purchase, depending on the bundle, you get a free Fat Quarter Bundle Bag. And some of those bundles, like the bigger bundles, you get more than one tote for free. But if you just want the Fat Quarter Bundle Bag, and he can drop a link in the chat for it, if you get one, that's great. But if you get two, it'll automatically give you the second one for free, right? It's buy one, get one free. I couldn't believe it when Melody said that on Wednesday. So the fat quarter bundle bags are these perfectly sized totes that fit fat quarter bundles of fabric in perfectly. Or you can put rulers in it, or you can put your projects in it, or whatever you're working on can go in it. It could be a great project bag. But the way it fits fat quarter bundles, and if you don't know what a fat quarter bundle is, let me just grab one from the stash over here, because I just have a few. They're just so pretty, and these come in all sorts of different sizes of how many bundles are in a fat quarter bundle, but they're fat quarter cuts of coordinating fabrics typically. And these little bundles, they're not that little, but these bundles fit perfectly in that fat quarter bundle bag tote that we have. And so if you get one, that's great. If you add a second one to your cart, it actually ends up being free. So it's a little secret deal of the day. Just for a fine print, fabric not included. It's just the tote. Melody wants to keep her beautiful fabric she got at Quilt Market. So, but she did a great job taking some great photos so you can see how you can apply it and use it in your own sewing space. But today we're going to jump to hide them from your hubby. I can't hide this. This has taken over my house. There's no hiding my sewing. But for those who do need to do that, I guess you could absolutely do it. He might see the green and black CutterPillar bag and think it's like a new tool of some sort, and he's not going to think that there's beautiful fabric hiding inside. So definitely go for it. All right, I condone it. I will always condone getting the tools and the stuff that you want, the pretty fabrics. All right, so if you were here on Wednesday, Corey Pearson with Linda's and Melody from CutterPillar joined me for our part 1 sew along. If you missed it, don't worry, it's okay. There is the replay over on our website, but don't go watch it yet. Just hang out here with us, take some notes while we're live, ask questions if you have them, and then you can always go catch the replay of part 1, and then you can also watch this one again once it's over, and then we will be back next Wednesday for part 3, the final part. Corey and Melody will be both back for that one, and we're going to talk about all sorts of quilting stuff. So you ready? All right. So if you are caught up, we wrapped up part 1 with making 1 full block, and then the homework was to finish the other 3 blocks for your table runner. So you should have 4 beautiful Christmas blocks ready to stitch together. I do. Finished them here just a few minutes ago. I'm so glad you guys were here with us on Wednesday. Awesome. Okay, so as I mentioned on Wednesday, we had 2 coordinating greens for block E. The piece is numbered E. So this block has the bigger, I always get backwards here, has the bigger green print on it, whereas this block has the smaller green print on it. So the way that I did mine is 2 of my blocks have the smaller green print going around the red square, and then 2 of my blocks have the bolder, bigger print going around the red. Did I say green square? Y'all, I mean red square. Did I say red? Who knows what I'm saying? Anyways, so what I'm choosing to do when I lay out, because now we're ready to piece all of these blocks together, is I'm alternating which blocks have what. So I have a bold print, and then I'm going to have my smaller green print, and then I'll have the next block with the bold print. And this is my personal preference. This is just mine. You can do it however you want. Some people were talking about on Wednesday mixing the bold green prints with the smaller green prints on the same block so that they were all kind of mixy match. Totally fine. It is up to you. It is up to you. What's great about this is, yes, thank you, Sue. I am a bit of an OCD person. So for me, it matters. But in the real grand scheme of things, it really doesn't. So I'm giving you permission to just do whatever you want because you have permission to do whatever you want. It's your kit, it's your fabric. But if you didn't notice that, that's why I'm calling it out, so that you can just maybe plan ahead in case that does matter to you. It matters to me. So I'm just telling you what I'm going to do, and then you can do whatever you want. So we need to lay out our 4 blocks. and I don't have room on my table to lay it all out. I actually have it all spread out on the floor over here. So if you see me like taking a dive for the floor, it's not because I need a nap, which is true. It's really just because all of my fabric is on the floor. My studio is a lot smaller than my sewing room. So gotta improvise. All right. So if you're following along, we are at the runner assembly on page 3 of the instructions down here, where we're really taking all of these blocks that we've made and we're piecing them all together. Then we're going to make our borders and attach our borders. Like, that is all we're doing today. We can talk about prepping your quilt sandwich if you want, so that you're ready for next Wednesday. But I know we had to get a lot done between Wednesday and Friday. And you have all weekend and all next week to get all of that caught up before next Wednesday, when we finish it with quilting and binding. We have a lot of different quilting and binding tips that we're going to share with you outside of what's just in these instructions. But I do sew it up per the instructions so that you can follow along. Susan, you did not have to do your homework. I'm not grading you. This is a fun class. Not a graded class. Actually, it's funny that you say that. My son just called me right before this live and he's like, Mom, that math test was hard. He's a sophomore in college and he's like, that calc class that exam was hard. And I was like, yeah, better you than me, because I would not do well in that right now. But yes, I did kind of schedule, Susan, I did kind of schedule this out so that we would get a lot done Wednesday, Friday, and you'd have pretty much the whole weekend and into next week before we meet up again and finish it up. So yeah, you have some time. You have some time. But our goal is to get this all done before November 1st, because how cool would it be to say that by the end of October, we have finished a Christmas sewing project? And I don't know about you. I know you know about Melody. Melody is already decorating Christmas trees at her house because she has so many. But for me, October 31st, that's the end of fall for me. And I immediately pack it all up and I get all the Christmas out. It does take me a hot minute to put out my Christmas because I have quite a bit. It's half my attic. But to think that I'll already have my Christmas project ready to go and put out on my table. And I don't know if you noticed the other day, but I actually pulled a little bit out. And I found my one, threads all over me. I found my one little tree. Oh, I didn't plug it in. That's okay. It lights up. And I put that in here just for this Sewalong. You're welcome. You're very welcome. Stuffed chickens. Who has stuffed chickens? I sewed stuffed chickens for my grandson and created a nesting box and finished painting football eggs as my grandson plays flag football. Okay, you've been busy. Susan, I used to do the whole Thanksgiving decorating, but I don't have people to my house for Thanksgiving. It's not, we go to my family, mom and dad's house. So I just go ahead and get a head start. I don't have enough to really, my Halloween is my Thanksgiving decorations. I don't do scary stuff. So, all right, let's jump in to switching my camera here. And there's my keyboard. I'm going to set that aside. Sorry, I'm a little cramped today on space, but we're going to make it work, as we always do. Okay. So I have, which one is this? Okay. This is going to be my first, and I always build like left to right, just like I read left to right. So it just helps me stay organized. So when you've got your first 2 blocks, this one's on, am I losing my mind? Okay, so if I'm going to turn this around, I need to turn them both around and not just flip them over. Y'all, it has been a day. Okay, I've been trying to get this done so fast. And I'm a pretty fast sewer. So this is my first block, starting my table runner left to right. And so I'm going to start with my first one. And what you can't see over here on my floor is all of it laid out. So I do recommend that if you have a big table or just put it on the floor like I did, or your bed in your guest room or bedroom or whatever, lay it all out flat in order. I think that helps tremendously to see it, to make sure everything's going the right direction. You want to make sure that your center focal designs that we fussy cut out are like this one's not upside down. You don't want the sleigh upside down and the mittens hanging down. Like that would look weird. If it happens, I mean, it's fabric, we can seam rip, but we can only seam rip to a certain point. After that, we're pieced the whole thing together and quilted. We can't really go back. So just be aware. I always lay things out. If you have a quilt design wall, you can put it up on the wall and step back and look at it, which is a great helpful tool to do. One of my tips is, especially, and it doesn't really apply to this smaller project, but it applies to bigger projects or projects with a lot of pieces, is I will put it up on my wall or lay it out on the floor and I'll take a photo. And then I look at the photo on my phone and then I can see if anything, it's easier to see, and those things that are off will kind of stand out more when you're looking at it in a more condensed photo versus like right in front of your face. It really does help. Yes, Sue, I want to listen to Christmas music too. Bethany, your blocks are so precise. I can point out how they're not, if you would, if that would make you feel better. I have no shame in the fact that my points are not precise. I did hit some right on the money though, and I will toot my horn on those, but some of them, not so much. And that's okay. We're just not going to look at this one, and we're not going to look at this one or this one, but that's okay. I didn't use the glue method that Corey taught us. I will tell you, I sewed these two together right before the live, and then I seam ripped them apart. I'm not normally one who like gets super picky about points and seam ripping them, but when I saw how off this one got, I seam ripped it. And I'm going to tell you why. When you lay it out here and you see this point here, you've got the green point, you've got the pink point, you've got the red point, you've got the red point, the pink point, and the green point. It's pretty obvious. So I'm going to recommend that you take your time. Susan, yes, imperfections add charm, and this is the galloping horse method. If you can't see it while riding past your quilt on a galloping horse, then nobody else will. We're only seeing it because we're looking at it right here, really up close. So when you go to piece these blocks together, because it's joining this very big focal point here around all of this white, you're going to want to make sure you take the extra steps. I was rushing and they didn't. This was like this. I mean, it couldn't have been more obvious. Like I couldn't have shown that. I couldn't have lived with that. And when it's that bad. Now, let me tell you what happens. When we have all of these pieces that have been cut on a diagonal at this point, you're going to get some stretch. When you cut fabric, like quilting cotton on the diagonal, it's called the bias, and you're going to get some stretch here, okay? And that's where you get these like variables. Also, my machine, well, I do love my Singer, is not really built to be a quilting machine. If I was using my other quilting machine that I prefer to use, it probably wouldn't have shifted so much. It just feeds a lot better. If you're having issues with shifting, like I'm having on this machine, then I would maybe take the time to put on a walking foot. And I don't know if I do have one. Let me grab it. Who here knows what a walking foot is? Walking foot can be your best friend when it comes to quilting and sewing. And it looks like this. It looks kind of clunky, and it is kind of clunky. And when you put it on your machine, it's a little louder. But this bar right here goes above the needle bar, and I'm going to attach this to my machine, and we'll see if it makes a difference. But when this is going up and down with the needle going up and down, you see these little teeth right here going up and down? These teeth act as like feed dogs for the top of your fabric that work in conjunction with the feed dogs on your machine that are already there. Look at all of you walking and talking today, Sue. That's what we're doing. And so we're going to put this on because I think that's going to help with my machine. My machine is just, my other typical quilting machine has a built-in walking foot. So I'm a little spoiled by that. I'm not going to lie. And so this time I'm going to probably attach this one. And basically what we're going to do is what we've done before. So the concept of piecing these together is the same as every other piece that we've done, whether it's just been two pieces together or a whole block together. We're just managing more fabric. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, this is my first block. This is my second block. And I read left to right, as most of us do. And I'm just going to flip it right sides together. So I know it's going in the right way. We do have a lot of points to match up. This is where I would recommend maybe using the pin method to get them lined up, and then you can follow up with clips. You could do what Corey did with the glue, which if I had been smart and planned ahead between Wednesday and today, I would have pulled my glue out that he showed. We do have a lot of seams that match up, and I know this is going to be a little challenging to see. So let me zoom in and I'll scooch over. So we have a lot of seams that line up. We have these seams here that line up here. We do have a seam down the middle of the red. I like to start with the seams. That's my personal preference. And then I can line up my points here. But if the points are giving you issues, start with the points. Line up the points. Because these seams are on white. If these seams don't match perfectly, it's not the end of the world. We want the points to really match. So if you want to start with the points, we can start. Let's start with the points. Last time I started with the seams, but I'm going to start with the points. I'm going to use my clip method because it's my tried and true. It's my preferred, but you use your pin method. You can use, so here I'm matching up the pink points, and then I'm going to match up the green points and make sure that they're holding true. And you know what? You could use all three methods. Glue, pin, clip, walking foot, all the things. Now, I'm going to tell you right now that a lot of people will take the time to square up their blocks. You see how my seam is a little higher right here? If you want to take the time to square up your blocks and get them nice and straight and even, please take the time to do that. I did not have time to do that before today's class, so we're just going to willy-nilly this one, and that's okay. That's okay. This is not my first time making this table runner. Actually, I made one already to show you guys in advance. So I've done one, and it turned out pretty decent, pretty good, I would say. I'm pleased with it. So I still have to put the binding on it, but I'm going to save that for next week's class. So I can quilt this one and bind that one and go through both steps with you in one class. All right, and then I am going to clip these in the middle here. There we go. All right, so this is what I'm looking at. And I like to do a little flip test just to kind of make sure with the clips. It seems like this might, if my fabric feeds evenly, this might work a lot better than the last attempt. So last attempt, I lined up seams. I didn't really line up the points as much, and I didn't focus on that. So I am going to stitch across here. And before I do that, I am going to swap out this foot, and I really hope I have a little screwdriver here. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Either myself or Eric can answer the questions for you. And we're going to put this on. I am typically a big fan of having a walking foot. So see, it's going above the bar, the needle bar here, and it wraps around my post. Most of these attach the same way. There's a few machines, a few brands that have a slightly different attachment, but it's the same concept. And I think the key thing with all of them is making sure this bar goes above the needle post so that it moves the feed dogs up and down on the foot. I am so bad at using a screwdriver with my left hand, like so bad. There we go. All right, that's it. That's all we needed to do. So let's give this a go and see how it works for me. If you do, sometimes my microphone will mute the sewing machine. Now, here's the challenge with switching. I now don't have my 1/4 inch foot. So my 1/4 inch foot, I just lined up with the edge of my fabric. Well, now I don't have that. I have this line right here on my machine. So I'm going to have to keep an eye on that and make sure that I'm using that, following that. So I'm keeping a true 1/4 inch seam allowance. Yeah, I forget how clackety these sound. So my foot right here, and it may be a little hard to see. Let me see if I can zoom in and zoom over a little bit. And the light on my machine is going to give us a glare, but my foot is wanting to lift up my fabric. So sometimes you kind of have to lift that foot. And by fabric, I mean my seam allowance from my previous seams of piecing. So if that happens, just make sure you take the time to lift it. We're getting nice flat stitching across here. All right, moment of truth. Am I going to seam rip again, or did this solve my problems? Well, one half looks good, and the other half not so much. And I truly just think it's my machine. This machine does not feed well for these types of projects, and that's okay. But I'm gonna roll with it, and I'll show you what it looks like. I have no shame. All right, so right here, this one isn't too, I mean, it's not great, but because it's a lighter color, it's not super noticeable. This one right here, I think there's just like, there's more fabric here because this seam is pretty well lined up, but it's just stretched. And because of that, I've got it's a little off here, but it's on point here, which is what sometimes you just can't overcome these, right? Like it just happens. So it's on point here. It couldn't be more on point down here on this pink and green. So, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. It's better than my first try. So we do know that the walking foot definitely helps. And that's all we can ask for at this point, is that it's better than it was. And look, can you see it right now? Look, you're galloping on a horse. Can you see it? Nope, me neither. Oh my gosh, it's great. So it's fine. It's totally fine. Everything's fine. So what we're going to do is continue this and add the next block. So I did my big bold print for my green here. I did the smaller green print here. So, I'm going to grab my next block. And of course I chose to put the pink deer towards the center of my table runner. And that one is going to go right next to it. Let me zoom back out here. So this is my seam that I just sewed. Here's my next block. And I am going to put these two together. And same method I just did, right sides together. And we're just going to pin and go. And I always kind of have to turn it so I can see both sides. And I always start in the middle when I'm doing this and clipping all of these together. Any questions? Add a little red pin. You know what, Sue? I love that you said that, because one time I was teaching a live for Singer with Michael's Craft Stores, and I was doing embroidery, and my white bobbin embroidery thread came up to the front in my design, and I was stitching out the word Singer in red. So to see the white on the top of my zipper pouch project that I was doing, it was so obvious. And so when I got done, I was like, well, here's a red Sharpie. And I just colored the white stitches red. And you can't even tell. Now, I don't know if that would work so well in this because it might bleed into the fabric. So I'm not recommending that for this type of fabric. But I have used a Sharpie before to hide the white rayon thread that had pulled through to the front of my embroidery design. because I was on a live. And if it's going to happen, it's going to happen when you're live streaming. All the mistakes happen when you're live streaming. Let's see here. You've done that on embroidery too? Yeah. Could you make a square quilt, a 2x2? Linda L, absolutely. Yeah, you do not have to make this into a table runner. You can make this into a 2x2 block. So you have 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. And then you can make it a wall hanging instead of a table runner, which now I really want to do that, but I have to show everybody how to do it the right way, or else I would do that. So I'm just going to have 2 matching table runners. But yes, you absolutely could. Or you could make this into 4 placemats, or you could make this into 4 pillows instead. Yeah. So yes, we're all about the happy little accidents, and it's part of the experience. It's part of the process, and we're working with fabric. It's never going to be 100% perfect, nor do I expect perfection out of myself or anyone else. All right. This little red line is really hard to see. I missed my 1/4 inch foot. Placemats would be super cool. I agree. Now, I did put this going the right direction. I didn't even look, but yes, I did. Making sure before I get too far along, my block is going in the right direction. If you have an extension table, extension tables for your sewing machines are very helpful. I have one for this machine sitting down here on the floor, and I didn't put it on, but see how my fabric is falling off? That even just that simple fall of the weight of the fabric can create some tension and get things off skew just the slightest bit. And you'll see that on the front side of your quilt top. So if you have an extension table, take the 2 seconds it takes to put it on, unlike me, and use that to your advantage. If you don't have an extension table, you know what I've done in the past, because I've had machines that I've used that didn't come with one. I got board game boxes and lined them up around. Even if they weren't perfectly level, it lifted it enough to like eliminate the pull and the weight of the fabric I was sewing. And it really does help and make a difference. So feel free to get creative. Some people have those tables that their machine kind of sits down in. It's fantastic. I'm hoping to get one of those for Christmas. If Santa thinks that I've been good this year, I don't know. I might be on the naughty list. Especially with these points. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Okay. Look at here. See? Nice. Okay. See, this one, so much better. So much better. So it kind of offsets the fact that this one's a little wonky. And we're going to quilt this whole thing, and it's very busy. So it's fine. Everything's fine. All right, let's do our last block. This part goes by very quickly because we're just piecing together the big blocks that we've already made. So here's our last one. I'm going to flip it and stitch it and get it all lined up. But see, now I've got more fabric to manage. The extension table right here would be helpful, but it's fine. All right. Any questions? When do you guys start decorating for Christmas? I told you guys mine. I start decorating November 1st. My Melody, she's already started. She's always buying Christmas stuff year round. So she's always in Christmas mode. And she even told me earlier today when we were in a meeting that she decorated another tree last night and she doesn't like it. So she's going to redo it. Like she does all of her trees. She's got so many. I have like, what is it? 1, 2, 3, like bigger trees. And then I have a couple smaller trees. And then sometimes in the past, we've put like a real tree out on the back porch and decorated the back porch. But the last couple of years, we haven't taken the time to do that. So it just kind of depends. Right now, our back porch is kind of a mess. So we've been doing some construction. So here at the house. And so it probably won't happen this year, but I can't have a real tree inside my house. I'm still allergic. I wouldn't be able to live here if I did. But my fiance grew up with real trees. So that was kind of our compromise. Like if you want the real tree, that's the one you have to, I bought the decorations, but you're going to have to decorate it. I can't. You still have your spooky stuff out. I do too. I still have my spooky stuff out. And that's fine. But after October 31st, the spooky stuff goes away. And then I start getting into my Christmas era. Now, some people like to leave their... Okay, so Lindell waits till the day after Thanksgiving. Black Friday is when Louise starts. Yeah, when you have that many people over, you just got to wait until after Thanksgiving. Since I don't have company come to my house, I just get a head start. And I really enjoy how my house feels. It's so cozy over Christmas. My favorite part is as soon as Christmas is over, I'm talking like just 2 days after Christmas, I'm already starting to take it down because I've had it up since November 1st. So all of my Christmas will be completely down and packed away, and my house will be clean by December 31st. So by New Year's Day, I'm starting the year with a fresh, clean slate in my house. And it's just, I find it so satisfying. And then my house feels so big because I don't have all the clutter from Christmas decorations. So I don't know. Call me weird. But everybody likes something different. And that's why I ask. It's always cool to hear what other people do. All right. This walking foot was a good choice. I'm really glad I took the 2 seconds. Oh, well. Oh, I didn't even turn it onto the sewing machine. I'm sorry. You just were staring at the cutting board. Perfect. Not good. Perfect. There's something about how I stitched these when I have 2 like that. And that's okay, because now they have a buddy and it's going to be more intentional looking, right? That's right. It is what it is. It is what it is. Who's already listening to Christmas carols? Oh, in your head. That's hilarious. All right. So now that we've done this, I would take this to my big iron and give it a really good crispy press. And I would use a little spray starch if you have it, or if you don't, just like press it really. I'm not saying like iron it, because if you iron it, that's where you're going to get stretch, but give it a really good press and press open these seams that we just did. So press these seams open and then flip it over and press the whole top. Let it lay there and completely cool before you move it. It kind of creates like a memory crease when you let the iron or the heat from the iron into the fabric like cool after you've pressed it. Don't press it and then move it, because then it's going to not stay flat. Does that make sense? Press it, let it cool, and then move it when you're done. The next thing we're going to do after this, which now that we've got all 4 blocks put together, see, that came together quick. Okay. We need to cut border pieces. You're going to need just a few, not too many. I'm going to pull this out so I have the exact numbers. I did mine earlier. I want to start by saying, if you have, so when we went through these cutting instructions earlier and we needed a certain number of these blocks, certain number of those blocks, and whatever, those numbers were just for these 4 blocks. So if you want to make the pillow, the extra pillow block, you need to cut those pieces before you cut your border pieces, because your border pieces are going to be cut out of whatever you have left over. Okay. And everybody cuts fabric differently. So some people may have a little more than others, but we all got the same amount of fabric. We just all kind of square things up a little differently. But for the border, you're going to do, they're 2.5 inch wide strips, 4 of them are only 4.5 inches long, and the other 22 are 6.5 inches long. And they're all made out of what's left over. So everybody's is going to be a little different. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to set this aside real quick. I cut mine already. So I have mine, and I'm going to show you exactly how I planned mine out, so you have an idea of what to do. And this is this is just my crazy method. It's totally up to you how you want to do it. And I've already sewed up my sides, but I'm going to show you how to do it. Let's see here. I got to get up and grab these other pieces. Okay. So let me start by this. I took my tabletop and I laid it out on my big cutting island in my sewing room, but you can lay it out on the floor, on your bed, wherever, on your kitchen table, your dining room table. Lay it out. Cut all of your pieces, the 4 smaller ones, which are just for the ends. So on the ends, you're going to have a 6.5 inch strip here and then 2 4.5 inch strips here. Okay. That makes up the short ends, and you're going to do that for both ends. Okay. And then the rest of the strips are just 6.5 inch strips all the way across the top and the bottom. It's meant to be very scrappy. Mix and match and have fun with it. I laid out my table topper, and I took all my pieces that I cut and I laid them out to make sure that I didn't have like 2 greens right next to each other or 2 reds right next to each other in the border pieces. Okay. That just is me. I like to, like I said, I'm a little OCD. So I laid that out. And then once I did that, I sewed up my sides. I sewed up one of the bottoms already. And this is what it'll look like. And I'm going to show you how to sew it up because I saved the top one to sew up with you. But this is one of the other ones. Okay. If you're going to cut from this, just again, personal preference, just make sure that if it's going to go with a direction, that it's cut in that direction. And then if you're going to have more than one piece of that this is a directional fabric, that they're all going like the same way. Like they're not upside down. One's upside down from the other. Again, it's personal preference and it's scrappy. So it's totally fine, whatever you choose to do. All right. So once I laid out all my blocks, I gathered them up, and then I'm ready to sew them together. And it's just a simple process of piecing them together. One right, like there's no diagonals or anything. We're just stitching, laying one on top of the other and stitching a 1/4 inch seam and pressing. You can split your seams if you want. I just press to one side. It's totally up to you. And you're going to do the same all the way for both sides. So the sides, like I said, are only going to have 3 pieces. And then the top is going to have 10 strips and the bottom is going to have 10 strips. And that's it. So let's switch over to my sewing machine. Hide all my clips. Now these are in order for how I had them planned out. I'm just going to set them right here. So this is my first one. There we go. So this is my first one. And then my second one is this little pink color. And the way that I stack them is, again, left to right. So I know the top one in my stack is the furthest left one in my strip. And then I'm working all the way across. You find your own system that works. Stick with it. But this is what I prefer. Now you could go through and start the next one in piece and then push, but just to keep it simple for you guys, I'm going to just cut my thread, open this up, and then on the pink one, I'm going to put the next one up and just go in order of my stack. It just helps keep it a little more organized. But if you want to just do 2 at a time and then open those up and piece those together, you can. Just whatever your comfort level is with keeping it organized. And then I'm going to open this up. Let's keep going. Sue, thank you. I did. What she's talking about is how I fussy cut these so that they are directional. I did not have enough fabric to do that with how I cut my squares in my first kit, but this kit I did, and so I was a little more intentional with it. So just, yeah, thank you for noticing. I just think that fabric is so pretty. It's just the prettiest fabric. So I wanted to capture as much of it as possible in this project. Because the only other place that we have that green fabric is the center of each of those blocks. And I love that lighter, like mint green color. It's actually the color of my, it's like a seafoam green. This one's a little darker, but I have like a seafoam green bedroom and bathroom. Like very spa-like. I just love that lighter green color. And so I was like, I want to use more of it. I didn't have to incorporate it into my border, but I just loved it so much that I wanted to. If you didn't do that, you could absolutely like cut some smaller pieces of this out and use it for applique or to make some really cute ornaments. Like, don't let it go to waste. It is such beautiful fabric. All of this Riley Blake fabric is really beautiful. It's really easy to work with. I should have put my my extension table on my machine because my fabric just keeps sliding off. All right, last piece. All right, so next I'm going to go through and trim all of these threads and get them all cleaned up and then give this all a really good press. Once I've got both of my long strips and my side strips done, I'm going to lay out my entire table runner and put all my strips and stuff around it. And then we're going to start to sew them onto the tabletop, all those blocks that we did. So let's see here. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I did last time. So once we're ready to sew our borders on, you're going to sew the side ones on first and then sew the top ones on. I don't know that I have the space in here to show all of that. I'm going to, let's do what we can. But I also have one done so I can show you what it looks like. TV magic. Look at this. So you're going to sew these 3 pieces, the shorter strips, okay? And this is the one where we have the longer piece, this 6.5 inch by 2.5 inch block here, that's bookend by 2 of the 4.5 inch pieces. We're going to sew that on this end, and we're going to sew that on this end, okay? And then you're going to lay it out and you're going to sew the top border and the bottom border on as well. So like we've done before, you're going to lay your strip out. Here, I'll just put it right here. Let me just show you overhead real quick. So here's my table runner, and you would just take your border and put it right sides together and stitch. And I have a little extra because this one's already sewn, but you're going to stitch along here, open it up and press it out really good. And then you're going to add your top and bottom borders. So do your sides first, and then you can do your top and bottoms, but that's all we're doing. When you're done with doing all of your borders, you'll see here on mine that I did go through and square up it just a little bit, but you could also wait until after we quilt it to square it up. But if you prefer to square it up before we quilt, you absolutely can. Okay, so let's talk real quick Does anybody need me to demo any of the border pieces being attached? I need to press them all, which is why I need to really press this before I do so. And it's kind of hard to do with that little iron. So what I'm thinking is I'm just going to talk to you real quick about setting up for next Wednesday. So have your tabletop done. Okay, with your borders. And then next week we're going to talk about making your quilt sandwich, different ways to quilt it, and how to bind it. This one's not been bound yet. I'm going to show that part next week. Corey's going to talk a lot about quilting. I'm going to show you how I quilted this one as well. But let's talk real quick about quilt sandwich. We'll do a little intro to quilt sandwich, just because if you want to get to that point and get your quilt sandwich made so that you're ready to quilt it next Wednesday with us, you absolutely can. And you can plan out what you want to do and finish it up before Halloween. So quilt sandwich is basically making a sandwich with your fabric. You've got your beautiful quilt top that we've been building this whole time. Okay. You're going to have a backing fabric of your choice. I'm going to show you what I chose. This is just a tone on tone Christmas holly. And I'm pretty sure I picked this up from Hobby Lobby because I just wanted something that was neutral, and the tone, the cream and the white matched really well with the front of this quilt. So I was totally fine with it. So I chose just a tone on tone. You're welcome, Susan. I just chose a tone on tone for my back, but honestly, if you have any scrap Christmas fabric, I mean, look at how traditional colors this is, reds and greens and different shades of reds and greens. Like, just use whatever you have. You don't have to go out and buy something extra. But I chose this so that I could show you my quilt pattern on the back. So there's reason behind my madness, I promise. But you could use a tone on tone. You could use whatever you want. This is your backing. And then in between here is batting. Now, Corey's going to show you his batting that at Linda's, they carry some wonderful batting. And one of them is a fusible batting, which this was my first time to ever use it. I have it. I got it over the summer. It was my first time to actually pull it out and use it. And I actually really enjoyed using it for this smaller project. So it's a fusible batting. It's just like a traditional batting, but it's got a fusible adhesive on both the front and the back. So I pressed my backing really well, got all the wrinkles out, and I laid it on my table. Then I put the batting on it, and then I put my quilt top on it, and then I pressed it all together. And I pressed it from the top, and I pressed it from the back, and it got fused all together, so it didn't shift. So I didn't end up with any puckers or anything because it was all fused and held in place. It eliminated my need to use an adhesive spray basting or a bunch of pins. But if you prefer those methods, please use that method. I typically use a basting spray. But since I had this fusible batting from Corey, I was like, oh, I am so going to use that. It's great for small projects. I absolutely love it for small projects. And this is, to me, considered a smaller project for quilting. So it just kept everything nice and flat, so I was able to quilt it. So then if you want to prep your quilt sandwich, go ahead and do so with your backing, your whatever batting you want to use, and your top, and then sandwich it together and secure it together with either quilting pins, like those bent safety pins, or you can use a basting spray that's like a temporary adhesive, or you can use a fusible batting like I use, which is from Corey at Linda's. So if you go to Linda's website and search for fusible batting, they've got it there. But he's going to talk all about it. It's so good. And they like to use that fusible batting with their Quiz Quilt As You Go system. So, and then, so next week we'll talk about quilting. I did this fun, check plaid design. I felt like this made it look like it was wrapped like a present with like ribbon. Yes. Or you can use Quilter Select Free Fuse. Like there's so many other brands. I think his is Hobbs. Do I always stitch around the border before putting on the binding? So it looks like I stitched around the border, but this was just part of my quilting pattern. And it just kind of worked so that it held it down, which was really nice. This is what Melody's watching our live. She's just watching and not able to join, but she's asking questions and I love it. My quilting ended up where I was stitching close to the edge. And then when I squared it up, it kind of just held everything in place, which is really nice. You do not have to do that. However, I have seen people stitch really close to the edge if there's not a lot of quilting pattern to keep everything nice and flat. And then I've also seen, and this is kind of crazy, but I'm so here for it. I've seen people take a serger and serge around the edges, and then be able to bind it. It's totally up to you. You do not have to stitch around the edge. This is just the stitching pattern that I had for my quilting, and it just worked out that it kind of kept my edges nice and tidy, and then I squared it up. So we'll go over quilt sandwiching again. Did you have any trouble with gumming of your needle? No, I did not. No, I did not. And Julie, I always put in a fresh quilting needle. And whether I'm using a basting spray or an adhesive batting, like I did, a fusible batting like I did for this, I've never had an issue. But I change my needle often. And you can also use these little alcohol wipes to wipe down your needle in between if you need to. But I change my needles pretty much every time I sew. You're supposed to change your needle every 6 to 8 hours of stitching. I do a lot of stitching and I stitch really fast. And so I change my needle just about every time I sit down to sew until I finish a project. Or if I need to see, I'll switch my needle before I quilt to my next one because I use a different needle for piecing than I do quilting. So some people have the same needle for the whole project, but some projects have different types of steps and they need a different needle. And for me, quilting requires different needles. So for my piecing, I use a Microtex. And for my quilting, I actually have a quilting needle. That's what it's called. I'll try to remember to grab those from my sewing room and show them for you next time. All right. So now if you want to, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Here it is. Oh, here it is. Let's talk binding for 2 seconds and then we'll wrap up. And then you guys can go work on your blocks and your borders. So the binding on this is rather fun. It's a beautiful fabric and I don't have the other one out, but it's this beautiful plaid. This is one of the fabrics we haven't cut into yet. So once you've cut into your borders and you've used those gray pieces, this is the only fabric you'll have left that you haven't cut into, and this is your binding. Now you can cut this binding so that it's true binding. I'm assuming you used your walking foot for quilting too. I actually quilted this first one on my other machine and it has a built-in walking foot. So yes, I will absolutely be using a walking foot, whether it's on this machine and I put it onto the machine or if it's my other machine that's got one built in. Always use it when quilting. It just helps feed. It's bulkier. So for the binding, I cut mine on the bias and I'm going to talk to you about that next week of how to cut your binding on the bias. And what that means is it's going to have a little bit of a stretch, but don't let that freak you out. I know people who quilt are like, I don't want anything to stretch. And we normally don't. And we're not going to let it. But when we cut it this way and we fold it over, we're going to get this really fun up and down design all the way around the border of the table runner. If you look at the picture on the front of your instructions, you'll see that like zigzag around the border. That's what they did. They cut this on the bias to do that. If you don't want it to look like that, you don't have to cut it on the bias, but you're going to want to cut it on the bias if you want it to look like this. And I'm going to show you how to do that next week. And so that way, after you're done quilting, you can cut your binding and we'll go over that next week. But I always tell people don't cut it until you're ready to sew it up when you're cutting on the bias, because it'll continue to the more you play with it, it'll stretch out. But I've already got mine cut and all of my strips sewn together. So next week I can actually finish the first one and get the binding on it. And then this one that I started with you guys will get quilted. So I'll have one completely done and one in the quilting phase. And then we'll talk about like threads and threads colors for binding and all of that. So I have it. Look, I don't normally put stuff in Ziploc baggies, but I did because I didn't want my bias binding to stretch out. So I'm trying to protect it. But how are you guys feeling? How are you feeling about this project? I feel like this one had a lot more fun pieces in the blocks, and the blocks were bigger than the one we did over the summer, but it's come together very quickly because we're just doing the blocks 4 times. So any questions about getting to the whole quilt top being done? Not quilting or anything like that, but just all the 4 blocks sewn together and your borders attached. Any questions about that? I want to make sure you have everything you need to be able to watch this replay and get caught up so that next Wednesday we're all ready to quilt. And then once you've learned about quilting, and then you'll be able to jump right into the binding. We'll teach both next week. It's doable and in time for Christmas. Yes, exactly. Susan, it's once you put it together, as you saw with this one today, I just made those 4 blocks. Just putting those 4 blocks together, it feels so accomplished, right? Because you see it all finally come together. We had all these little pieces, and then we built these blocks, but now and you're only attaching 4 blocks together. And I think it was Lindell or Susan, somebody said earlier, like, could I do 2 by 2? Yeah, you could take 2 of these and put it underneath the other 2, and then have like a 4 by 4 square. And that would be super fun. So it's totally up to you. So you can have a wall hanging to match your table runner, to match the pillow you're going to make. I have 2 here. That's why I said that. I could just be all decked out in all things Christmas. I am currently all decked out in thread, which is fine. So any other questions I can answer? Don't forget our Fall Fest sale is still happening. Melody and I are going to be back on Monday morning, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. We've got a fun little demo thing that we're going to be doing Monday morning. I think we're doing something on Tuesday as well, but don't quote me on that. Wednesday, we'll be back to wrap up the sew along, and Melody and Corey will be joining us. And then Melody and I will be back on Thursday for another fun little Fall Fest project demo fun thing that we're going to be doing. So there's a lot going on. We're just trying to wrap up October. I know it's a busy season. We've got Halloween going on, all these other things. It feels kind of crazy for me to have this whole room in my house decked out in Christmas when the rest of my house is Halloween and fall. But anyways, go check out our Fall Fest. This one is a challenge for me compared to the Precious Petals. Louise, you know what it is we had to cut all the pieces instead of having pre-cuts with the charm packs like the Precious Petals, okay? The Precious Petals blocks were smaller, and we did like a ton of them. So it was the same thing over and over and over and over again. And there wasn't as many pieces. This has got fussy cutting. We've got a lot more points. We had to cut all of their pieces ourselves. And we're building a bigger block. Okay. So it is different than the last one, but you're learning new skills and you're doing it. And don't forget to post pictures in our CutterPillar Creations Hub Facebook group. At any point, I had someone post right after the Wednesday sew along that we did. Someone posted in the group that they'd already done all their blocks. And I was like, mine looks just like it was at the end of the sew along. So I didn't touch it again Wednesday night. And I had to do other things. So some of you have been ahead of me up until this point. So it's okay. But show us your progress. I would love to, once you get your 4 blocks sewn together, and if you've added the border, but even if you haven't, send us a picture of this or send us a picture of this with the borders attached. I'd love to see it. And not just to share where you're at in the process, but it encourages others and helps others see that you're doing it, they can do it, and keep everybody motivated. And I love seeing your pictures and cheering you guys on over in our Facebook group. I'm so glad that you're enjoying the Sew Along project. Thank you, Sue. All right. So that's it for me. It's a fun weekend ahead. I've got sewing club tomorrow. So I don't know what I'm going to sew in sewing club tomorrow, but I need to go figure that out. I still have a Halloween quilt I have to finish. So that's probably what I'm going to work on tomorrow at sewing club. But if you guys need anything, you can leave comments over in our CutterPillar Creations Hub Facebook group. You can always email us at support@cutterpillar.com. We check those Monday through Friday. And if you, like I said, are missing out because you didn't get one of these kits, one of our table runner kits, that's okay. We do have another sew along happening in November. And let me grab that kit real quick. Hold on. I think I've got it sitting right up here. I do. Here it is. Oh, here we go. On my shelf. This is our next sew along. This is the Tannenbaum Patch Quilt Kit by Riley Blake. It's another Riley Blake kit. We only have, is Melody still watching? Melody, how many of these do we have left? We didn't have very many left. We sold out of the table runners. We have even we bought fewer of these than the table runners. So there's not many of these left. There's just a few. I think, Eric, are we still doing a sale on them? Are they still 15% off? What's the code? Do you remember? Sorry, I'm having a brain break today. But he's going to drop a link to it. This sew along starts November 12th. It's a 4-part series sew along. Corey and Melody are joining us for this as well. And the reason I'm doing 4 parts for this one is 1, it's a bigger project. So that's part of it. But 2, this also involves applique, and we're going to have a whole a session on just applique, which is super fun. Melody says there's only 4 left of these. 4. If you have not gotten this kit, go get it right now. There's only 4 left, and it's 15% off. That is it. If you have a friend that's been sitting on the fence about joining the sew along and you've already got your kit, go get it for them and tell them they have to pay you back for it. Or send them the link to go get it. They need to get this. This is going to be so good. By the way, this kit, this finished quilt is 58 by 58. That's the perfect size to have in your lap while you're sipping your hot cocoa, watching Christmas movies. I can't wait. Or if you want to drape it over the back of your couch or hang it on words are hard today. A quilt ladder. I mean, there's just so many fun. You can put it on the wall. This is laid across your bed. It's a good little fun size. It's not too big. It's totally manageable to quilt on a domestic machine. You do not need a long arm this. If you have a long armor, you absolutely could. Yes, Sue, I will be making this and watching Hallmark movies with my little hot cocoa. Susan has hers. Yes, I fell in love with the adorable trees. Okay, let's just do this up close. Like I said, there's only 4 of these left. There may be less now. This is what it looks like. Look at this. It's so cute. It's so cute. It's very scrappy. And remember how we were just talking about how our summer sew along had pre-cut fabrics with the 5-inch charm pack? This one comes with a 10-inch layer cake pre-cut fabrics for our Christmas trees. So we don't have to cut so much, which is amazing. We have all the background fabric. I'm also going to show you some fun ways to decoratively stitch these. I'm going to go seek out and hunt for some fun buttons to put across the top of all of my trees. We've got template. There's a template for the tree inside of here that we'll be using for the applique, and we'll be using our light boards to be able to applique this really easily, but it's just all going to be so much fun. I'm super excited about this one. It's so scrappy and cute. It's just this is a very modern twist on a Christmas, whereas this one was very traditional, which is why I picked them out. Because it's still very Christmassy, but it's a little different twist. So we're going to have a lot of fun with this. There's only 4 left. Go grab it now. There may be less now. Someone's probably already grabbed one. Use the code SEWALONG to save 15%. 15% at checkout. And I don't want to say you get free shipping, but I'm pretty sure this is priced enough to where you get free shipping. It's free shipping over orders $125. So go grab this, use your discount code, and yeah, come sew with us again in November. But we still have one more lesson next week for the table runner. We'll finish it up. Then we'll do this one starting November 12th. It's a 4-part series. It's a Wednesday, a Friday, and a Wednesday and a Friday. You'll have it done before Thanksgiving. So when all your family comes over to have dinner and see your house and everything, you can be like, look what I made. Look what I made. You could kind of go ahead and sneak this one out. I would totally show this off in front of the family because it's going to be so cute and so fun. And they're going to be super jealous. All right, guys. Come sew with me again in November. I'd love to spend some time with you. I'm so grateful for all of you to have spent some time over the summer sewing along with me. Again, right now doing this table runner and then this one as well. This is the fun part of what I do. I love teaching. I love sewing. I love sharing it with you all. I love seeing you all accomplish it and honestly do better than me sometimes, which I'm really impressed with, you guys. Or just your points are so much better than mine. But I am just so grateful that you guys want to spend time with me. So thank you for hanging out. Get caught up this weekend. Like I said, over the weekend or next week, if you have any questions, just drop them in the CutterPillar Creations Hub Facebook group and we'll answer them. And then we'll see you back here on Wednesday for the last part of this sew along, and we'll finish up our table runners, and then we'll maybe talk about what's coming next. All right, guys, have a good one. Thank you so much. Eric, if you can do me a favor, I can't reach my mouse. If you could do me a favor and hit the end stream in the corner of the computer, I'd appreciate it. All right. Bye, guys. Have a